Hey everybody, Alex Kazor, SteelersDepot.com back with another Pittsburgh Steelers 2020 player season in review today by your popular demand in our poll. Be sure to vote in the next poll if you missed out on this one. Diontae Johnson will be the player we are covering today in our 2020 season in review. What kind of sophomore season did Diontae Johnson have? And as we always do, let's look at the stats before we get into the tape. In 2020, Deontay Johnson had 144 targets. 88 of those became receptions for 923 yards and 7 touchdowns. Also had 13 drops, according to Pro Football Reference. From a snap count perspective, he played 66.8% of the snaps in 15 games. That number actually just slightly above his rookie total of 65.6%. Let's begin with the good of Deontay Johnson's game. What has always been clear in Johnson's game, and this was evident from the moment he was drafted out of Toledo, was his quickness and his open field ability. And I think when you face Deontay Johnson, if you're a defense, it's really dangerous to play off coverage against him. And you see that in these two examples we'll show you versus the Tennessee Titans in Week 7. This is a 3rd and 11. They're playing off coverage with the right cornerback and just going to run this short slant. And Johnson, with that quickness to change of direction, lateral mobility, is able to make this cornerback miss one on one and then picks up the first down. I think it's 14 on 3rd and 11. So, if you're a defense, and the benefit for a defense is Johnson's often the backside X receiver. So you can press and roll up on him because usually it's one on one. But if you're going to play off coverage, your quarterback better be able to change directions. So Johnson running the slant, the cornerback is unable to mirror that. I mean, just that ability to catch that pass, change all your momentum, and then change direction, and then get upfield, get the first down is really impressive. So just that overall stop start ability is pretty special for Johnson. He's running full bore on this slant, is able to break down immediately, change direction, get upfield. The cornerback can't match that, and picks up the first down on 3rd and 11. Very similar scenario playing out later in the first half of this Titans game. It is 3rd and 2 right before the end of the half. Steelers up 17-7. Here's Johnson, bottom of the screen. Again, the cornerback playing off. Johnson will run this slant, change direction, put that foot in the ground immediately after making the catch, make the quarterback miss, and works his way into the end zone. So if you're going to play off coverage on Deontay Johnson, you're going to have to potentially pay that price because he's really hard to tackle in space, and you see it here. So if you're going to play Johnson, it's probably better to press him, jam him at the line of scrimmage where you can use his size, your size against his lack of size. Because if you're going to give him some space, he's going to make you pay again. Foot in the ground immediately after making that catch. The cornerback unable to mirror it, loses his footing. Johnson is able to break that tackle and get into the end zone. With Johnson, you see that quickness, that change of direction show up as a route runner too. He's a really good route runner. It comes natural to him. He creates a lot of separation at the break point, at the top of his route. And this is one of my favorite routes he ran the entire season. Unfortunately, the ball didn't get to him. Actually comes in a fumble negated by a defensive penalty. But here's Johnson stack set, creates the free release in week 9 against the Dallas Cowboys. And he's just gonna run this, corner post. And he just gets in that cornerback's blind spot, turns him around. Maybe there was some sort of communication error on this play. I don't believe so, but just watch the route here. We'll kind of break this down. A vertical stem, full speed off the line. They get the cornerback to open up his hips. He's going to stem to the outside like he's going to run an out route, or potentially a corner route. And so that gets the cornerback, who's playing kind of with the spell technique, to change directions, to turn his head. And then once he gets in that blind spot, this is the cornerback's blind spot because he doesn't have vision on the receiver at this point. He's now going to stem and break that route to the middle of the field on the post. Cornerback has no ability to see this, and that is just a ton of separation. I mean, that is just this guy's going in the middle of the field, this cornerback's going the other way. You don't see that too often versus NFL cornerbacks, but you get in that blind spot, you create a ton of space, and had the pocket held up for Ben, and he had seen this. This is an easy touchdown for Deontay Johnson. A ton of separation there, no chance for the cornerback. So route running's about varying speeds, and it's about being able to have the quickness and change direction. But it's also, a football IQ kind of thing, where if you get in that cornerback's blind spot and he can't see you, you've won that battle, and the battle is over. It was right here. So one of my favorite routes the entire season from Deontay Johnson. I know Deontay Johnson gets a really bad rap for the hands and drops, and that's true. And I promise we're going to be looking at some of those drops here in a second. But the guy actually, I think, has good hands. There's just a lack of focus sometimes that causes those drops, and he can make some really difficult catches. This is week 11 against the Jacksonville Jaguars on third down. This is a third and 10. And the coverage he's seeing here is two-man coverage. So the cornerback's going to be playing to the inside hip, kind of playing in a trail technique underneath, taking away any sort of in breaking routes. And still, Deontay Johnson is able to win on this dig, which is incredibly difficult to do. And I like off the line here on his release, kind of this hop step to start and then able to vary speeds and then get up to speed quickly, not allow the DB to get into his pads at all and bump him and reroute him. So changing speeds off the line is how you start and how you create some of that separation against two man. And then top of the route, be able to create space, make a diving catch with a safety bearing down on you. You don't know if you're going to get hit or not. On third down, move the sticks. Really nice play here from Deontay Johnson to win off the line, to create separation at the break point and then make a diving catch on third down, potentially sacrifice your body. Nice job here. You never know over the middle. Is that safety going to come down, take my head off, whatever the case is? But Johnson able to leave his feet and make a really key conversion on third down. One last look at it, and we will move on to the next play. And that next play comes just a few plays later. Same drive, week 11 against the Jaguars. A back shoulder fade to Johnson that's thrown a little off target, maybe a little too far out in front for Johnson, but is able to make this combative juggling catch down to the 1 yard line. Steelers score on the next play. And again, this was a second and 10, end of the half. You're trying to convert. You want to get seven, not have to settle for three, make it a 17 to, what was the score here? 17-3 game. So again, Johnson combative, making a tough catch. Again, he'll drop some very easy passes. We're going to talk about that here momentarily, but he can make some really difficult grabs as well. Check it out from the end zone view, and you can see this combative catch. The ball placement not perfect here from Big Ben, a little too far out in front. Quarterback kind of all over him. Gets his hand on the football, but Johnson, the control, the hands, the awareness, finish the play, make the catch, gets down to the 1 yard line. Steelers punch it in the very next play. All right, that is the good of Deontay Johnson. Now let's check out the bad of Deontay Johnson. Of course, when you talk about the negatives with Deontay Johnson, you have to really start with his hands and the drops. And again, I don't think he has bad hands. I just think there's a lack of focus. It's a little bit difficult to see on the all 22 tape, but this is probably one of his most egregious drops of the entire season. Third and goal against the Baltimore Ravens. Steelers down 7-6 in the second quarter. Going to run this slant here versus Marlon Humphrey, and he's open. This is a touchdown, a walk-in touchdown for Deontay Johnson. A really good release, foot fire, separate, and burst away from him. A touchdown here. If he catches this, gets upfield in all likelihood. But he takes his eyes off the football, I think, kind of starts looking upfield, trying to find where the DB's at and where the goal line's at, and he drops the pass, and the Steelers are forced to settle for a field goal. He knows it. You can't drop this one. And so, again, I don't think his hands are terrible. They're a little small. I think they're 8.5, 8 3/4, I think was what he measured in at coming out of Toledo, and just a lack of focus sometimes as well. And it creates a ton of frustrating drops. There's no doubt about that. Led the NFL in drops this season. This one cost Pittsburgh a touchdown. Later in that same game against Baltimore, Pittsburgh trying to salt this one away up 19-7, third and five, about 4 minutes left in the game. Johnson getting wide open on this wheel route, just has to track it and catch it, and unfortunately, he cannot and drops it. Really good kind of switch release concept here. Drawn up by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Johnson aligned as a number three receiver in the slot. Not often he gets pushed inside, kind of tells you something's coming. Runs over the rub routes here of the slants of the other two receivers. A great throw from Ben this time. Great placement. Johnson, though, just can't hang on to it, and the Steelers are forced to punt. Still go on to win this game, but this one could have really salted it away. And this is a tough catch to make. Trying to track it over your shoulder. I believe Antonio Brown said the toughest catches he ever had to make, and of course he could catch everything, was that over the shoulder kind of grab. But he can certainly make this catch here. And again, I think he takes his eyes off the football right there, trying to look. Just look this one in the whole way. It's kind of the advice I would give to Deontay Johnson. Look the pass in the entire way. That is going to cut down on a lot of these frustrating, unnecessary drops. And had he caught this one, Pittsburgh probably never gives the ball back to Baltimore, but here they have to punt. And those drops can be contagious for Diontae Johnson. They felt contagious for the entire team around week 12, week 13 last year. Over a 2 week span, according to my charting during the Steelers season, I believe that was week 12, week 13. Johnson had 6 drops over 2 weeks. Kind of hard to do. He does it over that span. And on this play in particular, just right through his hands. Just an easy catch to make. Maybe the pass is a little bit high up towards the face mask as opposed to right between the numbers, but still a catch any receiver should make, especially one as talented as Deontay Johnson, and just simply lets it go through his hands. I'm not even sure if he took his eyes off of the football on this play. I just think he just let it slip through his hands. I don't know if there's any mystical reason. A little tough to tell. Maybe he took his eyes off of it, trying to see where he could run upfield. Obviously, he's a rack, run after catch, yak kind of threat. And so he's so focused on what's my first move going to be. We saw in those clips in the positive, making that great change of direction right after the catch. And there's a lot of value in that. That's his game. But the consequence to that, the thing he has to work on is securing the football first, because it doesn't matter what move you make post catch if, of course, you don't catch the football in the first place. So big amount of drops here for Deontay Johnson. They were contagious. They came in spurts and streaks, and a very hot and cold type player. And then there's just general ball security. And it started not only in that week 12, week 13 stretch, but the start of the season. His first opportunity of, the 2020 season was a muff punt against the New York Giants that the Giants recovered. And I did a video on Johnson last year that probably didn't age too well and earned me a lot of flack in the comment section about, Johnson's posture as a punt returner. And I think to be a good punt returner, we talk about, making guys miss and big plays and touchdowns and all that, but it starts with securing the football, and that creates that needs necessitates, I should say, good posture where you're square, you're under the football, and you're catching it cleanly and comfortably, or you're going to have some problems. And so you see some really poor posture here from Deontay Johnson. He's not under the football; it kind of really gets on him. He gets squared up to it, but he just isn't in a comfortable posture to catch this, and he's got to be probably a step would be back here a little bit to more cradle this than opposed to letting this one get into his chest. He drops it. It gets recovered by the Giants, and the Steelers have a good defensive stand here, thank goodness. But you shouldn't have had this happen in the first place, obviously. Now, I understand this was a weird season, week one. You hadn't caught a punt in a live session, no preseason games. You hadn't been in this kind of action for a while. So maybe that's the reason you can explain it. Maybe you lost it in the lights, whatever the reason is. But none of those are acceptable excuses for muffing this punt. And so you saw by the end of the season, Ray McLeod was really taking over as a Steelers punt returner. Johnson's a really good punt returner, obviously became all pro his rookie season at the great return against the Cardinals. And so once he secures the football, he's as dangerous as anybody in the open field. But securing the football, ball security, hands is always going to be or has been at least the issue for Deontay Johnson. So, for our final scouting report on Deontay Johnson, starting with the good, his quickness, change of direction in the open field, the yak, run after catch type of threat that he is pretty special, and he's made a ton of explosive plays because of that, as we showed in these clips. His route running is impressive for a sophomore, even as a rookie. He was a really skilled, gifted, nuanced route runner, creating space at the break point, a tough guy to cover, especially if you're going to play off coverage against them, and he can make some tough catches. He has good body control. He can make some tough plays. We've seen him make some 10 out of 10 type catches. And then moving on to the bad, of course, there are the frustrating drops. I think the way I sum up Deontay Johnson's hands are he makes the tough catches look easy, and he makes the easy catches look tough. And you want to be able to normalize that and not have some of those negative plays. Clearly, again, I don't think his hands are bad. I think his drop issues are partly because of a lack of hand size or on the smaller side of things, but primarily and largely because of a lack of focus, not seeing the football in. If he kind of is able to concentrate some more, not worry quite as much about getting upfield immediately, I do sincerely believe you'll see those drop numbers really come down. Plus, and I didn't touch on this in the video, you really can't do any teach tape on it, but a slighter build has led to injuries, hasn't always been available. Not all his fault. Players get hurt. I understand that, but he hasn't always been available, and that's, I'm sure, created some frustration for himself and for the team. So that is our recap and season in review for Steelers wide receiver Deontay Johnson. Again, I don't think, some people said it was a sophomore slump, and I certainly agree there were some low points in his sophomore season, but I don't think it was really a down year overall. The drop issues were not new. They were there as a rookie. Maybe they were more pronounced as a sophomore because he saw over double the targets. But for a guy that played roughly the same amount of snaps in 2020 as 2019, his numbers went up in every single category significantly. So obviously there's still work to do, but I'm excited about him. I think he's a really talented player. I think he'll continue to get better. And if you cut down the drops and you just cut him in half, I mean, there are a lot of complaints about Deontay Johnson's game as that X receiver in the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. So I'm excited with him heading into year number 3. Let me know what player we should review for our next video. It will be a defensive player. I'll put a poll up in the community tab the next couple of days. But let me know in the comments what players you would like to see, and I can probably use that information to figure out who should be put in our poll. Then you guys can vote and tell us what player we will review next. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.